You're watching the Health Now Nutrition Podcast, advancing our holistic and nutrition industry one story at a time. Presenting your host, Michelle Post.
Hi everyone, welcome to Health Now Nutrition Inc. And today I am with the most amazing Janice at Janice Inspiring Change and Kristin Leeper at Kristin Talks Hormones. Today we're actually going to talk about immunity, which is such an important topic that we need to really start getting clear in the world as of today's weird world. Since all this fear that's actually come out and about as of the last 6 months, it's been draining on everyone, and everyone needs to know how they can actually do more for their immunity, their own personal health when it comes to immunity boosting. The reason why it is so super important is you've seen in the media, a lot of it gets blocked out there, and there are things you can actually do. And so we're here to just give you some hints, some ideas, and some insights as to why working on your own personal immunity is good, not only good for yourself, but also good for the world. So today we're talking with the amazing Janice, and you can reach Janice at JaniceInspiringChange.com, and the amazing Kristin as well. And you can reach Kristin at KristinTalksHormones@gmail.com. So again, I'd love to welcome you guys. Thank you so much for coming up and having this amazing panel on immune boosting. So the first thing I just want to talk about really is, why is boosting your immunity so important that you actually want people to know about this today? So Janice, I'll let you go first with that.
Sure. Thanks again for having me on, Michelle.
Always.
So why is immunity so important? That was what you asked, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So basically, if our immune system is not up to par, then that's how we're going to get sick. So that's why it's so important. It's where things happen or don't happen. And if our immune system isn't working properly, we are going to know it because disease is going to set in.
Awesome. Absolutely. Kristin, what's your take?
So I definitely agree with everything Janice has said. And then I know that I'll be talking about this later, but our immune system isn't in isolation in the body. We talk about this a lot in nutrition, but everything is interconnected. So as much as we want to support our immune system to keep ourselves and others safe, especially right now, increasing the effectiveness of our immune system has benefits for the whole body and different body systems that maybe we're not thinking about as well. So if we're improving immunity, we're actually improving our overall health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is so important, especially right now, for how everybody is to really start looking at their own personal immunity. Not everybody else's, got to do it personally to make sure that actually happens. The more we take care of ourselves, the less contagious we are for other people, And we're also entering flu season for most people as kids go also back to school. It's not just the one that we're also shocked about that's happening in the world. There's going to be numerous other things that are going to come up as kids interact and get together and lick their fingers and touch each other, because seriously, people, masks on children, it'll work itself out. So we don't have to worry about that. That's just my take on it. So So Kristin, I'm going to start with you today. You're a nutritionist who does actually specialize in hormone balancing. And I'd love for you to actually explain why proper stress management provides a foundation for immunity.
I'm so excited that you asked me this because when we think about our immune system is actually tied very closely to our adrenal glands. And our adrenal glands, they're these little hat-shaped guys that sit on top of your kidneys, and they're basically your stress management centers. Yeah.
They're hat-shaped guys. I love that.
Yeah. And so your adrenal glands are responsible for dealing with stress. But the problem that we run into is that if our adrenal glands are dealing with a long-term stress, they can actually become tired. We can hear terms like adrenal fatigue and adrenal exhaustion. And if our bodies reach that point, our ability to fight off disease actually decreases. So I think a lot of people may have noticed that when you get run down, that's when you get sick, and that's not an accident. That's very much linked, because if we're exhausted from dealing with stress, we're just not able, we don't have the resources to be able to have the immunity that we normally would.
Awesome. Awesome. And especially now with the amount of stress that is in our world and the amount of changes that have actually happened and all the factions, different factions with the opposition there, stress is one of the key culprits, I think, for people to not be feeling so good. Absolutely. So what kind of practices can people have on an everyday basis in order to support their healthy immunity?
So in terms of stress management, I think it's really important to recognize, because I know I struggle with this, that we can't necessarily take the stress away. Sometimes I think we can make changes in our life, and we can, but sometimes that's just not possible. But things like, as much as possible, prioritizing restful sleep. Actually, for me, I recently noticed I had a couple of nights of not great sleep, and I woke up feeling sniffly the next day, because I think my defenses were just down that little bit where I picked up a little bit of a cold. So that's definitely one.
Mine's definitely in the sinus. When I don't sleep well,
yes,
right? I definitely have a sinus issue.
Yeah, I find that too. And so I think movement is another one that's really good for stress management, but I do caution a lot in the advice that I'm giving not to push it too hard, because if we're exercising really intensely, exercise is actually a form of stress for the body. Our body doesn't know the difference between running on the treadmill and running from a tiger. So as much as it's good to be, to get moving for so many reasons, it is important to kind of recognize that our bodies need downtime as well to know that it's safe. And so that they're not getting inadvertently too stressed out from the exercise.
I'm so glad that I don't have tigers in my community that are chasing after me.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you think, Janice, that we can have stress management?
Well, meditation is very important, and I always mention to anyone I'm speaking with about because a lot of people haven't done meditation, and they think they have to go somewhere and sit in a temple, and it's just not the case. You can sit in your living room, you can wherever you might want to be. You can be in the car. But if someone's interested in trying a little bit of meditation, I always recommend that they go to the internet and look for some guided meditation, maybe 5 minutes, just to see what it's all about, and then they can go from there. And a lot of yoga practices, of course, yoga is a de-stressor in itself, and but a lot of yoga practices start with a little brief meditation and end with a brief meditation. And that's a good way too to kind of introduce yourself to what that's all about. And it's very, very important with regards to managing stress. And Kristin said, we have to realize that we can't always, the stress maybe we can't control, but I'm a big believer in figuring out how to manage the stress. So stress will always be with us. And sometimes people will say, well, I can't control this, that, or the other because I'm so stressed. But the stress isn't going to change. Maybe the actual stress itself, if it's a wedding or a funeral, they're both stress. But it's how we manage the stress, how we choose to manage the stress that makes the difference.
That is so important. And I love that you actually said that as well too, because really it's also how we manage the stress and how we react to the stress, and doing things like meditation and yoga. And I also like to recommend binaural beats. If people don't know what that is, you can get that. You can just download something from YouTube, looking up binaural beats, which actually helps put you on a wavelength that actually creates less stress. So how to manage your stress, how you actually respond to stress. And I've noticed even for myself over the last little while doing the SRT, the subconscious release technique, I did not get irritated on my jog today as the kids who were bicycling by me. I normally get really irritated if they don't ring their bell or they let me know that they're coming up. And today it was just like, yeah, okay. And that was really awesome because that's how I manage my stress. So like even road rage is a stress. People get that and they don't manage it. And really like, did something happen? No. Okay. Well, we all make mistakes. Let's just move on. Right. So if that one is not life shattering, we're all good. Okay. So if somebody cut you off and you got out of the way and we lived, Guess what? Yay! So gratitudes is the other thing, is to really start practicing a lot of gratitudes. And that can actually take us out of the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calm nervous system, which is what our goal is to stay calm. Don't let the fears drive us, move forward. Absolutely excellent. So now we're going to start talking a bit about the gut health and immunity as well. So Janice, we mentioned here that our immunity actually does start with our gut. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's interesting, and it's in fact past few years there's more and more information about gut health, and it's a term that that we've heard a lot. And a lot of people don't realize that 80% of their immunity is in their gut. And they think, oh, what does my gut have to do with my immune system? But it is actually the case. And we have signs that our gut is out of balance, and
because I'm agreeing. That's why.
Yes, yeah. Inflammation is one sign that your body is that your gut is out of balance, and therefore your immune system would be. And a big one is sugar cravings. If you've got sugar cravings, then your gut is out of balance. And I see this all the time. And so many people are addicted to sugar, and it's scary actually, the power of sugar. And the addiction that people have to it is so powerful. Is any skin condition is usually a sign of gut imbalance, and allergies, of course. And I think Kristin might have something to say about that. Gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, bacterial infections, viruses, autoimmune disease. Those things are all part of are all signs that our gut is out of balance.
Fascinating. Absolutely. And so, Kristin, you have more on the gut imbalance when it comes to food sensitivities. Give us a little share on that one.
Yeah. So we actually talked about food sensitivities last time we chatted, and we were talking about how when you have a food sensitivity, your immune system mistakenly flags a protein in a food as an invader. So for me, my body looks at dairy protein and thinks that it's a virus or a bacteria, and it mounts an attack against it. So that doesn't feel good in the gut, for sure. Want to avoid that. But more importantly, or equally importantly, it's draining immune system resources, because you're now mounting an attack against a food that's not actually going to do any, it's not a virus that's going to infect you or bacteria that's going to harm you. And so you're actually depleting immune system resources. And so, for example, if I ate dairy for 4 weeks straight, and then I came in contact with, let's say, like a cold virus, well, now my immune system has had 4 weeks of mounting unnecessary attacks, and so I'm not necessarily going to have the same resources that I would to fight off that cold, as well as I could have if I'd been aware of the food sensitivity and not had any dairy, and so sort of saved the immune system for when I really needed it.
Fascinating. Just absolutely fascinating. I know that enzymes are a key component because we get our enzymes from our digestive system, from our gut health. And then, of course, they actually are in our white blood cells. And it's that's on our white blood cells that actually will attach to a virus and break down the virus quickly. So if we're actually having that attachment, if we don't have enough in our digestive health, then the immune system has to use it from our digestive health, leaving our digestion weak. And if we don't have enough in our the other way, the opposite way, then they have to borrow from each other. So they're not prepared to actually be able to help and break down viruses and other toxins from inside the body. So the immune system is left weak. So that's fascinating. I love that. What kinds of things can people do to improve their gut health then, to make sure that they have the right type of enzymes, the right type of lack of inflammation? Like what can people do?
Janice, do you want to take this one?
Oh, sure. Well, we already talked about stress and what that does. But of course, changing the diet, is that something you want to talk about, Michelle? Or
sure, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So changing the diet, because it seems like lately I've been repeating the same thing about the standard American diet an awful lot. And
It's like an hour ago too, so.
So eating the standard American diet, or the SAD diet, is the contributing factor to poor gut health, poor immunity. Because if your gut is unhealthy, then your defenses will be down. So, you know, our foods that we consider to be our normal foods, everyday foods, like, you know, processed meats, sweets, pies, fries, you know, chips and the dips that go with them, all the sweetened foods, the white sugar, it's really causing a problem. So in order to go in the opposite direction, we need to start eating real food. And a lot of people have no idea what real food is. You know, the box cereal with you know, the tiger on it. We're talking about tigers. Let's keep that going. You know, that's not a real food. That's a chemical soup made in a factory, and it has no value. In fact, any little value that it would have has been added in artificially. Yep. So this is the problem with today's food. It is not real food. We need to be eating whole food, and with that, we can turn things around.
Absolutely. Kristin.
Yeah, so I fully agree. And to kind of add on to that, because I really liked what Janice mentioned earlier about sugar, we're definitely on the same wavelength with that. So a lot of the processed foods have lost a lot of their fiber content, and they don't necessarily have a lot of, like, we'll say the yummy fats in there, like your omega-3 fats. And then in terms of protein, sometimes we're not getting quality protein in there as well. So fat, fiber, and protein are the things that we need to balance blood sugar. And so if we're having some of these processed foods that are really high in carbs, we're actually sending our blood sugar on a roller coaster. And that's really stressful for the body. And it's really hard on the adrenals, because the adrenals have to come in and help manage the blood sugar. So in addition to kind of being nutrient depleted, which I fully agree, we're also potentially really throwing blood sugar out of whack if we're eating those foods all the time.
Absolutely.
If I can add, you know, a lot of people, they don't know what the damage of sugar is, and they're addicted, so they don't want to know. But sugar can suppress the immune system for up to 5 hours. And in one of my talks, I make mention of the fact that I give an example of a breakfast. So again, we'll go with the tiger cereal. And so that's got tons of sugar in it. Might have a coffee with sugar in it, and some people even add sugar to their cereal. So right there, you've got 5 hours of a suppressed immune system. You go to have lunch and you have a sweet dressing on your salad, or you have a burger with all kinds of condiments on it, and they're all full of sugar. You've added another 5 hours to your suppression of your immune system, and you haven't probably even used up the first 5 hours, and then dinner, and on and on and on. So when is the time that the body is not compromised? In that type of diet, the body is always compromised.
Absolutely. The one thing about sugar that people don't actually understand is just because it's nutrient, it doesn't have any nutrient in it. It actually needs the nutrients from inside the body in order to even break it down. So not only is it nutrient depleted, it'll actually deplete the nutrients inside your own body in order to break it down to its fullest potential, so that way it doesn't cause an issue. So your own body can become more and more nutrient depleted by eating nutrient depleted foods. So I think that's just another really good thing to actually share out there as well.
And while I'm thinking of it, if I can, the beverages that people consume nowadays are so toxic, and a lot of people don't consider what they're drinking. They have tons of orange juice, tons of colas, whatever they might be, alcohol, of course. Those are loaded with sugar, loaded. And you know, they call those fast calories because you don't even consider that they're there, and all of a sudden you've just consumed 500 calories in an 8-ounce glass. So the body just can't cope with that. It starts to break down.
Kristin, you're going to love this. What's coming to me to mind is those highly caffeinated, energy boosting drinks out there that I will remain nameless out there, that people are getting in these massive cans now, and they're drinking all of those because their goal is to get energy now, and that of course will deplete hormones, you know, especially when it comes to the adrenals and that. So those things is just something to superly stay away from, and rebuild adrenal support as well. Like, absolutely. So we need to support our immunity for long term. What kind of things do we need to keep in mind, aside from staying away from those drinks I just mentioned?
Yeah, so when I think about supporting the immunity long term, I think, and I think it's really important to remember that it's not a quick fix. Like anything in nutrition, it's not a sort of, you know, take this pill or take this supplement or eat this one apple, let's say, and then it'll fix everything. As nice as that would be, it really is, I think, about laying the foundations for long-term health, kind of like we've been talking about here. Like Janice was mentioning, maybe it's doing some of a dietary overhaul so that you're getting more nutrient-dense foods and supporting blood sugar. Maybe it's incorporating meditation or a certain amount of exercise in your day. I actually don't usually, I love the phrase immune boosting. It's such a like smart phrase, but I don't actually usually use it, just because I don't want to talk about like a temporary spike. I want to talk about sort of a long-term improvement. Even though if you do feel like you're getting sick, I totally understand. I had those cold symptoms and I took zinc and vitamin C, so I do totally agree. But in terms of the long term, I think it's really focusing on that. Yeah, those foundational pieces to make sure that this is more of a permanent, long-term kind of solution.
Fantastic. So what do those long-term foods actually look like?
So I'll bring up one that we haven't talked about before. I think protein is a little bit underrated when it comes to the immune system, because our antibodies are actually made from protein. And so our antibodies are like these, I'm going to call them specific soldiers that are made by, they're called the B cells of our immune system, but they're made by immune system cells. And our antibodies will flag specific pathogens. Let's say like a specific strain of a virus has its own antibodies. And so in order to make antibodies, we have to have enough protein. And so I think protein's sometimes an underrated one. And I don't know, I probably don't, it's probably not the only thing, but as a child, I was super picky. I ate almost no protein and I was sick a lot as a kid. And I suspect that one of those things was that I just didn't have the raw materials to be making those antibodies.
Yeah, especially with the digestive health as well. I know I got a lot of protein in my diet, but the right kinds, the building kinds, there's a lot of toxicity, and having a history with Crohn's disease myself, I probably was not breaking it down properly in order to get the right amino acids. So, right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's something to be said for protein you can digest too.
Right.
Personally, I don't digest plant-based protein very well, so we tend towards more animal protein, but every person's going to be different there. But just making sure that you can actually take in all that good stuff.
Right. So let's give a list. What kind of proteins are we talking about? We have all the way from plant-based proteins to animal proteins. Janice, give us a whole schwackload of plant-based proteins there.
Plant-based proteins, and I'm just the opposite. I digest plant-based protein easily and not so well with the animals, so we're on both ends of the spectrum. But protein, when it comes to plant-based, would be the nuts and seeds, of course, the grains, the legumes, those all have protein, and a lot of vegetables have protein in them too. So it's not complicated to get a well-rounded amount of protein in a plant-based diet.
Absolutely. It's absolutely true. Just making sure that you put those heavily with the plant-based proteins there too, so that way you can get those luscious amino acids out of it, as well as all the other good stuff. So, and Kristin, what does the other proteins look like?
So in terms of protein powder, the first one I think of is collagen. I really like collagen protein. Whey protein can be a really great source, but I can't tolerate any dairy whatsoever. So
Yeah, I don't do
think
good with whey either. Yeah.
Yeah, we're very similar that way.
Right? I know, it's weird. Yeah, funny.
Yeah. So I think in terms of like adding a protein powder, you know, if you're wanting to add to your smoothies, I think collagen's a great option. And then when it comes to your animal proteins, I know that this is tricky because it's more expensive, but if you can get better quality animal protein, it definitely does make a difference. Even if maybe you're having less of it, you know, but maybe you're stretching it a little bit longer, like those organic eggs, the free range eggs, and if you can get more of your organic and your grass-fed beefs and chickens and things like that. I've definitely noticed it, like a health difference in switching, but
yeah,
even if you can, you know, even if you only have organic chicken, because that's the only thing you can afford, at least if that piece is organic, like even doing things like that, I think can really help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I just want to, because Kristin is talking about hormones, and we just talked about animal protein. And so there's a big connection between the hormones in animals and hormone health. So that's something to bring forward.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a really, really good point. We can actually be taking in, if the animals are giving hormones, we can also be taking those things in. Yeah, I remember one of my teachers in school talked about sometimes it's implicated in early puberty in girls.
Yeah.
If they're having like processed animal protein, like that hormone piece. But the good news is that actually switching up those sources and removing some of those, like delayed puberty again, you know, put her back on the track that she was going to be on. But yeah, that's a really excellent point. I'm really glad you brought that up, Janice.
Nice, nice. What's coming up for me when we're talking about the protein is bone broth soup. I love bone broth soup. There's got the collagen in there. It's got the glutamine for good gut health. And of course, the amino acids are already pre-digested. So you're actually getting them delivered exactly where they need to go. So I definitely love that one. However, of course, some of us with histamine responses have an issue having too much of it. So I can only have a small cup at a time. So, but I love that one. That's a really, really good one as well. So we're talking about protein now. Are there any other specific foods that carry specific nutrients for immunity boosting benefits? I'm going with oysters, guys. Tons of oysters.
Oh,
oysters have zinc, guys. I love that one. You know, you got your vitamin C and all kinds of things. So share a couple of those with me.
And mushrooms are really good as well.
Right. We talked about the reishi mushrooms earlier, and how they actually stop viruses from being able to adhere to our personal cells, specifically reishi mushrooms. So other mushrooms, of course, have many, many benefits to them too, yeah?
Yeah. Well, foods, you know, the phytochemicals in plants will support the whole body and the immunity, that support the gut health. They reduce inflammation, boost the immune system, make everything work so much better, promote healthy cells. So it's really important to eat plants too.
Fantastic.
And I know we always talk about, or we often talk about vitamin C when it comes to immunity. I love vitamin C. Vitamin C is great. So I think a lot of people know your citrus fruits are a good source of vitamin C, but so are bell peppers. Bell peppers are actually really high in vitamin C, and they're delicious. So if you're looking for like a vegetable component for that vitamin C, those are a really great option.
Absolutely. Great stuff, guys. So here, we have here lastly about the potential hormone supporting benefits to healthy immunity. Share a little bit about that with us, Kristin.
Yeah, so in terms of hormone balance, I like to think of the adrenal glands as sort of the base of the pyramid, and then you can build up towards other hormones. So you have your adrenal glands at the bottom, and then I think of the thyroid, which is a gland in our neck that regulates metabolism. And then after that, I think of the sex hormones. So like testosterone, estrogen, progesterone are hormones that they govern a lot of things, but we think about reproductive health. And so if the adrenals are thrown off by chronic stress, if they're exhausted, then it can actually sort of destabilize this whole pyramid, because that you have to have supported adrenals as the foundation. So if you have supported adrenals and as a result healthy immunity, then you can find that the other hormone balance pieces will actually fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because in terms of, I think we talk about women when we talk about hormone balance a lot. And one of the things is, in order for women who menstruate, in order to release an egg every month, so to ovulate, whether or not your goal is pregnancy, but just to ovulate, our bodies have to feel safe. And so if your adrenal glands are stressed and you feel like you've been running from a tiger the past few weeks, you're not going to ovulate. Your body does not feel safe enough to do so. Its job is to get you away from that tiger. You can ovulate next month, which is fine. It's a brilliant survival mechanism. But in terms of chronic stress, we now run into a problem where your brain feels like, if we use this metaphor again, it feels like it's been running from a tiger for a long time. We may now run into an issue where ovulation hasn't happened for a long time. And so I think it's interesting to see this cascading effect.
That's super interesting. I remember a time way back when where I didn't ovulate. I actually went 2 weeks before without it, and I was going through massive amount of stress at that time and thought that I could have possibly been pregnant. And of course I was not, and it was the amount of stress. So I think the majority of women may have had that 1 or 2 scares in their life where they weren't, just because of the amount of stress that we've gone into. So
absolutely.
Nice and calm. Say nice and calm. All right, so let's share a few of our own personal recipes when it comes to something that people can actually do and take home tangibly. So I have a recipe that I love to share with people called fire cider. And really, it's a fermentation process that you actually want to get a good apple cider vinegar that does have the mother in it. So the mother is the culture that ferments apple cider into fermented apple cider to turn it into apple cider vinegar. So you'll hear so many people touting about apple cider vinegar when it comes to good digestive health, because it helps you actually stimulate digestive juices, including ththose enzymes, hydrochloric acid, whatever it is that you need. When you actually take that and you allow, like you choose 5 of whatever your favorite immunity boosting foods are. So it can be an onion or garlic, turmeric, ginger, lemon, whatever else. Cayenne peppers, those are your hot peppers, are usually a good one that I always add into it as well. And you let that actually sit in there. By the time 4 months, yes, it's 4 months, goes by, it's actually infused all those wonderful potent chemicals and nutrients from those vegetables into the actual fire cider. So this is now your fire cider. So you can actually take a shot of this once a day to help really boost that immunity. Now, for myself, watch out, depending on what your constitution is like, I can take about this much in a shot glass once or twice a day, and you can feel it killing anything that's actually going on. So for those of you who have a constitution like me, do not go for a full 2 ounces because you will be having multiple trips to the bathroom, as it kills anything in your system except for the good bacteria. That's the other thing I want to mention, is keep your probiotic uptake for your gut health as well. So that is my fabulous recipe that I will also describe when this video comes out. I will also reshare this that into the link here on YouTube. Janice, you have something else that you'd love to share with people?
I like juicing, and I think it's a good way to get a few extra nutrients. I eat lots of fiber, so I'm not concerned about not getting any in 1 glass of juice. So I have an immune boosting juice recipe, and it has carrot and apple and ginger and turmeric and lemon and some greens in it. And so just doing that once a day or 3 times a week is certainly going to help.
Absolutely. And delicious too. Fabulous. And Kristin, let's have one from you.
So I think it's funny that all 3 of us actually have drinks, especially because we were talking about like high sugar drinks, and all of us made drinks, that are low in sugar and good for immunity. So that's awesome. So my recipe is called a low sugar chocolate cherry smoothie. And so it is dairy free, and actually it only has half a cup of cherries, and that's the only sweetener in it. So it's low in sugar. And then of course it's delicious because you have the cacao powder in it to flavor it for chocolate. But you can also add cacao butter, which is a healthy fat, and that can also help to keep blood sugar balanced. So there's low sugar and there's fat. You can toss in collagen or plant-based protein for protein. So all of those things can help to keep blood sugar stable. And as we talked about earlier, stable blood sugar helps the adrenals kind of take a little bit of a break for a second so that our body isn't stressed by these blood sugar imbalances. And in turn, that can help, promote immunity because we'll have the resources.
Fantastic. And I can see that also being turned into an elixir as well. So other healthy things that you can put in there, just like that.
100%.
Right? Like the reishi powder. And even maybe even some cinnamon for even more blood sugar balancing, whatever your taste buds fancy, I guess.
I want you in my test kitchen, Michelle. That sounds great.
Right. Yeah. I could do that. Like, oh, we could do this and we could do that. We could add this to the juice. And, I get very excited about what we can do. It's wonderful. Awesome. Well, you know what, ladies, thank you so much. Today, again, just to let everyone know, we are talking with Janice from Janice, Janice at JaniceInspiringChange.com. If you'd like to get a hold of Janice. Kristin, wonderful Kristin as well at Kristin Talks Hormones at gmail.com. And of course, myself at Michelle at making-strides.ca. If you want any more information from any of us about how to help with you and your optimum wellness journey, we're all here to help. So again, guys, thank you so much for coming out and for sharing your wonderful tips and tricks and information for people to be able to get to their optimum wellness.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And we will see you next time on Health Now Nutrition.
Bye.
You've been watching the Health Now Nutrition podcast with Michelle Post. For more information on how you can be part of the holistic and nutrition movement, visit www.healthnow.today to book your meeting.